Charles Berry, who's sitting at the table next to Victor, who's the owner of this property at 204 Hanover Street. Proposal, we had come to you earlier in the year, involves Siobhan Carew, who's sitting at the end of the table. He's been the owner of Pomodoro Restaurant since 1992. It exists today at 319 Hanover Street. And the recent purchase of the building, the difference between the proposal before and what we have today, that we gave you copies of, is that the current proposal has a singular zoning violation. We are proposing simply to change the ground floor and the basement from a retail store use in high gear jewelry to a restaurant use. This property is located in the Hanover Street Community Commercial District, so the restaurant use is what is referred to as conditional. I'll go through that. It's not a variance or forbidden use, but a conditional use. The entire of the north end, there is no area in the north end, there's no location in the north end where a restaurant use is an allowed use. So the use in the north end, although we have 90 some odd restaurants, is either conditional if it's in a commercial district, or it's forbidden if it's in a residential district. In this instance, it's conditional. What I've given you are the requirements that we are required to meet for the purpose of the Zoning Board of Appeal, and they are, I will repeat for you, on that first sheet that I gave you, is this site an appropriate location for the use, meaning a restaurant? Does the use adversely affect the neighborhood? 3, will there be a serious hazard to vehicles and pedestrians? And will a nuisance be created? And last, will there be adequate facilities for that particular use? We submit that in that location, we're talking about the last block of Hanover Street. We have any number of restaurants on the same side of the street as well as the other side of the street. Is that the most common use for that ground floor space is, in fact, restaurant use. We're talking about a 39-seat restaurant. It's not a very large restaurant. Her current restaurant is even smaller. Has never had an issue. There's never been a violation with her license. She conducts an Italian restaurant with a beer and wine license that closes at 11 p.m. That would be the same case in this instance if she were to move the license to this location. The one difference that she would make at this location is she doesn't currently serve lunch, but she would serve lunch at this location. So the only violation in the packet that we gave you is the fact that that restaurant use is conditional, and we will be going to the Board of Appeal later in the month on the 18th for conditional relief that we're requesting. We also gave you a set of plans which are identical to the layout and set of plans that you saw once before. That is that, excuse me, there are 31 seats within the restaurant. There are 8 seats in a small area which is open within the restaurant but open to the outside, meaning that if you went by there today, you see those 2 glass display areas and the entryway. That's the area we're talking about that she would like to have a couple of tables on her property, but be open to the street and the weather. What you see in that diagram also is, as she has it today in Pomodoro, there's a small dining rail, as you would call it, facing the street, which has been a trademark of the restaurant and extremely popular in terms of people wanting to sit in the restaurant looking out at the activity on Hanover Street. So she thinks that that concept is attractive not only to the neighborhood but also to the diners to the restaurant.
So is that in an open area of the street, or is it going to be closed?
It'll be closed from walking in from the street. In other words, you'll need railings there, but it will be open to the weather. So that'll be basically.
You'll have open windows?
Will the windows be open?
Yeah. Is that open windows, you know, is it going to be out, like an outdoor patio?
No, think of what we used as an example the last time is the gelateria. You know how he has the ice cream and then he has a table in that set-in area. Similar to that, it will be set into the building, but it will be open to the conditions. So it will be open to the weather.
So is this an elevator?
Yes, it is.
I thought the elevator was not.
No, the head house is removed. The height of the top floor, if you look at the diagram, the height of the top floor is such that they can enclose the mechanicals for the elevator within the space between the ceiling and the roof. So there is no head house. We removed the head house from the building. As we had indicated last time, the restaurant vent is located mid-building, closer to what we would call the greenway of the Montgomery side of the building. And the only items on the roof are what would be nominally the mechanicals for the building, and all of those are enclosed in an area that won't be visible even from the street or from abutting properties.
How large is that roof hatch?
The roof hatch, I believe, is 2 by 3. That's an allowed function for access to the roof by the city as opposed to the head house.
What is the purpose of the elevator?
The elevator is access to the second and third floor. One of which is office use and one of which is residential.
So this is in the alley, is that the alley?
I'm sorry?
This is in the alley, so there's no entrance, right, to where the elevator is going to be, is that correct?
The entrance for the second and third floor is through the alley, the side entrance of the building, and that's also the entrance where you can go up by elevator.
Is it existing, is that an entrance right now?
Yes.
So that, the entrance is already there?
Yes.
The office that's going to be like a retail space. Somebody.
It'll be an office use, not a retail.
More like somebody for rent, some
Yes.
company.
We're not changing that use at this time, which was one of the so-called violations we had last time. Originally, we had proposed it as a residential use, which had been used for a number of years, but the requirement of residential use is that you have parking, have open space, which are variances, and we were able to first.
Any other questions?
The front of that store, there's a doorway.
Yes.
Is that going to be taken away?
Yes.
Where are they going to be entering?
They're going to enter through the passageway, the alleyway to the side. That's a common alleyway.
So in other words, the people that live in the back are going to hear this traffic in and out.
The traffic would be one residential apartment
People
and
want-
one office. There are 18, I believe there are 18 units they're currently using.
The entrance to the restaurant, is that going to be?
No, the entrance to the restaurant is in the front. The restaurant entrance is not in the outside.
The restaurant. Does anybody live in the building now?
No.
So nobody from the Pomodoro building is using that alley right now? The alley's not
No,
being used?
the building's vacant.
Okay.
If you just count the people who are sleeping in the doorway. You know.
Any other questions from the council? We'll open it up. Any abutters?
Thank you, Mr. President. George Dubois, I represent the Romano family. And I have one picture to show you, and I'd like to pass this around, it's the only one I have. It's a picture of what currently exists there. And,
That's my question.
sorry?
I mean, this alleyway is only used for people that live in the back.
That's right, that's right.
Right, now she's going to open it up.
Not for the restaurant,
Oh, no, he's gonna open it up.
for the apartment and the office.
Well, let me just tell you, I think it was, this has already been voted on and rejected by this board and the other board unanimously. So this is all wine in a
No,
new
that's not
bottle.
accurate.
This whole wine in a new bottle. So all he did was take out the head house, but he still has all the ventilation, air conditioning equipment that the tenants of Mrs. Romano's building will now have to deal with. And they're totally against it. Mrs. Romano has circulated a petition. She has over 140 signatures.
Actual question. No, she hasn't come to either meeting, or anybody else.
75 years old.
Okay, but how come any of the other abutters haven't made the meeting?
I got a petition from her.
I thought you were talking about here.
because I'm here.
I signed the petition.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you know, she's 75 years old, she's a very nervous woman. Let me tell you, we had a meeting, that mayor's meeting outside the building, and people were insulting her, telling her your buildings are polite. They were yelling at her, yelling at me. And
Nobody was yelling at
By the
you.
way, if any of you attended, you'll know it's totally
It
inaccurate.
was totally embarrassing to have attended a meeting like that. They told her her building was a blight. They told her everything you could think of that would, and she's basically a 75-year-old woman. Y'all know she's been there since 1947. Her family still lives there, 2 sisters, and their family was up above. They're true North Enders, okay? So what's happening here, they're taking out the existing entranceway on Hanover Street and shuffling all the traffic through the alleyway, which is a no trespassing sign. It's been up.
May I ask you what traffic's going to be going to the alleyway?
Well, he's going to put, now he says he's going to put an apartment there. There used to be an office there, so everybody's going to use the office. It's truly going to be an office. And then you're going to have another apartment there, and nobody's ever used that office. Nobody's ever used that alley on the Romano side. And she's the only one, on the Milano side. Mary Milano owned that building before she died, and her family sold it. They own the Union Oyster House, as you know, and there's a family that knows how to open a restaurant. That place has never been a restaurant. If you look at all the factors Mr. Ferrulo tells you to look at, you have to answer no. Is this going to be convenient, or is it going to be disrupting the part of the answer is absolutely yes. There's never been a restaurant there. There's never been fumes. There's never been rodents. Now, Mrs. Romano is not anti-restaurant. She didn't object to the 142 restaurants you already have here. She only doesn't want this one on the other side of her because it's going to. She has 10 tenants that live that face that alleyway. They're now going to face the roof with the air conditioning equipment, the ventilation, and now they're going to put windows in the alleyway, which nobody's ever used except for her and her tenants.
What would Ms. Romano like to see in that building?
Well, she'd like to see some retail use. I think we discussed that at this meeting. And another meeting, there was unanimous, not unanimous, but there was quite an overwhelming request that they put something other than a restaurant, a retail use. It's been a jewelry store, travel agency.
How come they didn't last?
Huh?
How come they didn't last?
The jewelry store had a flood, and they left. The travel agency was Marie Alexander. She ran until she was in her 80s, and she since passed on. You had a photo shop that was there, a dress shop that was there. For various reasons, the people just moved on. People got old, and the last tenant was a jewelry store. They had a flood, and it destroyed the premises. So that's the answer to your question.
I just have a question for Mr. Ferrulo. You said that the vent is facing like Martinetti's cross street way, or is it facing here?
Yeah, let me explain. Whether there was a restaurant there or not, you need mechanicals on the roof for any use. So if you look at the second page of the gate, this first section, which is closed in so that you can't see it, are the mechanicals that you would need, whether that was residential use, office use, etc. The only thing on the roof that's related to the restaurant is that one round vent that you see sort of midway through the building and closer to the side of the building that's facing out towards the green. So, the fact that people say, we like the idea that it would be residential or something other than a restaurant would not change the fact that these items would be required to be on the roof anyway. There's no way you can have the heating, air conditioning, etc. without putting something on the roof. It's a minimal amount of intrusion. The second thing is that there are windows on the side of the building that aren't used, but they would like them never to be used. So I put you in the place of Mr. Barry. As you buy the building, they don't want you to open the windows because the windows haven't been opened, and they don't want you to use the so-called alleyway or passageway that you have every right to use because no one's used it a lot in the past. Put yourself in that position. Would you say, oh, you're right, we shouldn't open the windows because somehow that might offend all of these other people? Because you keep saying how many people are using the alleyway. Well, the alleyway is used predominantly by all of the people in the Romano buildings. We're only talking about 2 units in this building using that alleyway. And again, we would show you, the alleyway is common, whatever the allegation is, that placing a lock on it, that you're prohibiting us from using it is totally a fallacy. By right, by law, it's owned by the two parties to use. And it's not being overused because now you have a residential unit on the third floor and you have one office space on the second floor. So as far as the usage and who goes in and out, I would correct my brother counsel and dear friend, is that I was at those meetings and no one berated Angie at all. As a matter of fact, my counsel referred to one of the abutters as a nitwit. Which he found.
He threatened to kill me.
No, that was another individual that you threatened. But the individual
I
who showed up as a
I didn't threaten anybody.
you referred to as a nitwit because he said, you know, it would be nice to have a nice looking building here.
No.
So anyhow, if you were there and some people here were
The building
there.
obviously needs to be renovated to put, you know, air conditioning in the building, there needs to be something on the roof. Would you be okay with a use for retail and they could use the alleyway to access the two apartments at the top, or are you against any kind of renovations to the building?
In all due respect, the way that building was built, you access it from the front, they're taking out the front access and putting it in the rear. Those windows he talks about, I invite you to go down and look at them.
Yeah,
They're those windows that don't open, they've never been used. And that gate has been up for over 40 years, it was put up by Mrs. Romano's mother.
Okay.
And she's been dead since 1994.
Yeah, but this is a city, we need to renew the buildings that are here. I mean, are you opposed to any use of that?
Oh, no, absolutely not. We're proposed to a retail use. Now, why all of a sudden did they change from 2 apartments to an office? And I question that very suspiciously, why you would do that, and what's going to end up doing. It's a trick to minimize the number of violations that building proposed. And by the way, it's never been used in an office. It's been 2 apartments, an illegal apartment, as it now turns out, for the last, and I looked at the building check. Also, what you're doing, to answer Ian's question, they're going to put a patio, outdoor patio, basically on the sidewalk. And what Mrs. Romano is worried about is lines, noise, and as you know now, the North End, in all due respect, you can't even walk down the sidewalk anymore on a Saturday. You have to basically go out in the street. Again, this building and this use was never a restaurant, never a restaurant. It was built in the 1930s. Since then, it's never been used as a restaurant. You're not only going to put mechanicals that weren't there before, you're going to put ventilation that's never been there before. And that's the key here, because now you get noise and odors, and then they're going to attract rodents. Now, my brother, yeah, we got a problem here.
One restaurant's not gonna add to the problem.
Well, you've got 142 restaurants.
You're not gonna persuade us by adding a rodent comment, just so you know.
Well, she doesn't have a rodent problem if you don't put a restaurant there. You're talking about a woman that's been in the North End all her life, been through good and bad. She saw the expressway go up, she saw the expressway come down. And she wants to live in peace and not to have somebody come along and say, I'm gonna put another restaurant next to you.
Where's this patio gonna be?
It's going to be right on the sidewalk.
No,
right in front of the
no,
sidewalk. Yes.
Again,
And it's not a patio, it's
completely incorrect, completely incorrect. The space is 8 seats where those 2 window displays are. So that those window displays are removed, the entry is moved back, and in front of the restaurant, there'll be a couple of tables to seat 8 people on the outside, but not on the sidewalk. In other words, if this marked the front of the restaurant, it would move back to here, you would have some tables on the outside as well as the entrance into the restaurant. They're not on the street, and there are 8 people sitting. So it is not, every time it comes
What
up
time
to
is this
speak,
patio open until?
oh, we
What
close at
time is
11
the
o'clock.
restaurant open until?
11 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
But that's what time the patio is open until.
Correct.
Would you
11
just-
o'clock.
It's not a
It's not a patio, it's
Well,
an
whatever
entry,
you want to call it.
whatever you call it.
Ask your question, is there a roof on it?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
it's all enclosed.
So
Enclosed.
it's indoors?
It would be like this, it's enclosed within the building,
It's not a-
except that it's open in the front.
Okay.
It's open to the elements. In other words, you're going to have people laughing and having drinks and so
So
on.
would you consider closing, just have closed windows there?
If it made a difference, that would be an enclosure, the answer would be yes. And the point is, we've tried to have this discussion. Let me speak to the office versus the resident. And I will say again, offer it to my brother. We will gladly change the second floor to a residence from an office with a letter of support. from our abutter. If our abutter gives us a letter of support, we will change the second, that was the original intent, but they objected to that as well. Everything was objected.
No.
So they would not agree to anything.
Now, don't speak for me, because we objected to a restaurant.
You
Period.
objected
Restaurant.
to-
You voted against the restaurant.
Again, have you given us the letter? We've asked you to give us a letter of support for the
No. Please,
residential.
let me just make my point clear. I was getting late. You voted against the restaurant. And if they're coming back here and saying, okay, we made
I
these
think it
little,
was the whole proposal.
well, we came in objecting to the restaurant. And I think the sentiments were against the
I think,
restaurant.
you know,
I think you're objecting to everything they offer.
That's not true.
I mean, that's what it seems like to me.
Sir, I don't mean to interrupt, would I be able to please see, and we collectively see the petition signatures?
We would add,
That's
if
my
we
only
did bring them
comment,
for a
is that-
specific reason, we have
Why you do that?
between
I'll make
60 and
copies.
80 letters, emails, et cetera, not petitions, that have been sent to the mayor's office, et cetera. We didn't bring them because they're from local residents, they're from patrons of the restaurant, they're from a variety of people. They'll be given to the Board of Appeal as well. There's a reason for that, is both local individuals who have supported, there are people who recognize that we are part of an entire city, and that's what the zoning is all about.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If someone wasn't living in the building now, how would they enter?
There's an entry from Hanover Street. You have an entry in Hanover Street, and you have an entry in the alley,
Which they're taking away.
which is taken away.
What's the frontage on
What's
the?
there's an entrance in the alleyway up now?
No.
There's absolutely a door in the alley.
But nobody uses it.
That wasn't the question. The question is there one there?
Yeah, I'm seeing,
Yes.
I'm seeing two doors.
So there is one there.
There's one there now.
So why isn't it being used?
There's no one in the building.
So if somebody lives in the building, they could use it?
Yes.
Nobody's used it for over 50 years. That's
We
the
don't-
question.
We
That's
don't
the.
know, we're only recent purchase.
And
We
And
don't
that's
know
not
what
recent
that
purchase,
is.
but I represent a woman that was born there, and nobody's used that alleyway except.
We understand she was born there, we get it. My grandparents were born here too, we get it.
All right, but do you get the part about?
I get it.
The part that
I
nobody.
get everything. The door
nobody
was put up illegally, I get it.
Let's
sit down, I understand.
Any other questions? David?
Just looking at the wording of the petition.
No, I didn't
I see three
disrespect that
bullet
woman.
points.
I'd like to
First
make
of which
that
says,
clear.
you know, as far as the
I
reason,
mean,
the
an
stated
elderly woman got
reasons for
disrespected.
why everyone that signed this objects to the quote-unquote new construction licensing request for a dining establishment at that address. First of the three reasons, and I quote verbatim, rear egress presents safety hazards to tenants and business at 206 Hanover Street. Can you please elaborate on that?
Elaborate on the address?
The rear egress, what safety hazards are presented by the rear egress?
Because there are young ladies that live in the building, the gate is locked, and they consider that a safety issue. Now, you have a lot of people, as you know, that do a crime reporter in the north end, and also there are vagrants that, you know, especially when Martinelli's was there, they would sleep, they would try to get into the alley and fall asleep there.
Is that past tense only, or is that still going on for this?
Because of that gate that's been there, it's not happened. And nobody's been accessing that in the tenants.
Now, would the gate be removed, by the way?
Sorry?
There's no reason to remove the gate.
No.
In other words, the gate would still be there.
Yeah, but all
And
the
there'd be two other uses. Now, keep in mind, we have 18
But what we have
uses.
here is an adverse possession issue. My brother says, well, there's two people that have a right to use it. That gate's been up there, says no trespassing for over 50 years. And anybody that knows the law will say, okay, nobody can use it but Mrs. Romano and her tenants. That's number one. So to address your question, the people that live there feel safe there because they have a locked gate and nobody can come in and disrupt their tranquility or their safety. So that's to answer your question. What's the next one?
Let me answer it as well. To the drive, one residential unit and some office use that might take place between office hours of whatever, 8 in the morning until 5 at night. That's the safety issue, whereas 18 residential units in that building, they're not concerned about who else rents their apartments. They're concerned about whether one apartment in our building is rented and one office is rented. Or, as we've already volunteered, make it 2 apartments. For some reason, those people.
We're talking about the public.
Those people would be
Public,
offended.
not
The public
necessarily.
would not have access because
Well,
the gate can
because of the
still be
lock
locked.
gate that says no
It can still be
trespassing.
locked from the outside. It has to be open
Not-
from the
not-
inside.
But, you know, because Mrs. Romano and Mrs. Milano,
The restaurant is not going through the gate.
Is it front?
Not going through the gate.
This is-
Can't be clear.
They're redoing the front entrance to make it restaurant only, and
Restaurant
then
only.
utilizing the store that has been previously utilized to get to the residents and offices.
Correct.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to raise here is, and I don't know if this should be the case, but to be honest, I'm a bit surprised that, looking at the addresses of all the people that signed this, you said there were roughly 140.
Yeah,
It's all over the north end.
right.
I guess I kind
And I think you may have a silent or not so silent majority. We're sick and tired of the noise, the restaurants, the filth, and everything else that's going on. So we have a unanimous consensus from everybody in the north end, including people that live near there, that said enough is enough. So you have a situation where a direct abutter, who has been a long time North End resident, who has asked the people in the community, do you want another restaurant here? And they said, no, that is a conscious and a vote of the community.
However, unanimous would be, once again.
Any
I
other
don't think
voters,
we
anybody
have
else?
105 units speaking for
I'm just gonna say that I was polite to the lady.
You already voted no on it.
Well,
It's not different about it.
They should have used and that was.
technically, procedurally, that's something.
All right, well, look, the spirit of it was no restaurant, that was it.
So you're done, are you done with, you're done presenting?
Yeah, thank you very
Take a
much.
seat, please, thanks.
Are there any other comments? All right, somebody want to make a motion?
Well, somebody raised their hand.
Oh, sorry.
My name is Laura, and I live at 206, so I'm one of the tenants in the building that uses the alley. So I had, concerns about whether the gate would stay locked. I think that wasn't clear from what I had heard before.
Will the gate stay locked?
Absolutely. There's no reason not to. In other words, our residents in the building are in the same position as any other residents. You don't want people going in and out. You need to be able to get in if you are a resident.
When there's
and you
somebody,
need to
when
be
there's
able to
another
get out.
party, you can't
I'm
control
fine.
that.
All
Right
right,
on.
when you're called on, you can answer.
I know. So the answer is, the lock gate is not an issue because it can remain locked.
Wait, can I ask you one question, Billy? If this is a retail location, if it stays retail, are they still gonna have, be able to use the alleyway?
No, because it's a door.
So this is where we,
That's
the
what I
answer
don't
is we have
understand.
every right to use the
Yeah, that's
alley.
all, I don't understand.
The fact that
No.
it hasn't been used doesn't mean we don't have the right to
No,
use it.
that's not true, because they haven't used it, and we,
Just
there's
because they haven't used it doesn't mean there are
a
none.
law that says adverse possession. We
No,
get
this is-
complete control of that alleyway.
This is a theory that he has, and if you put a lock on the gate and you say, I can't use it, you've eliminated my property rights. And again, anyone who owns property would take the same position I'm telling you right now.
We just want to
You
see-
can't illegally block it, so.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to it. I make a motion to approve of the application to change occupancy from one apartment, one office, and one store to one apartment, one office, and one restaurant with basement.
I second.